let's see. I mean, yeah, and we'll let people trickle in as they do. But yeah, man, I was like, yeah, it meant a lot to get that. I guess you don't call it a retweet or whatever on YouTube, but when you gave the shout out to my Death in June video, Current 93 video, because I was like, that was how I heard of your channel, because someone wrote to me and was like, yo, I love that video. And I was like, oh, how'd you find out about it? And he was like, from Wyattxhim. And I was like, damn, man, I was like, this guy's got this amazing channel. I'm fucking like so deep on all the shit. A lot of followers. I was like, he didn't really have to do that. I was like, this guy obviously just cares about stuff. There was really nothing in it for you to signal boost my shit.
I think it's important to bring out other people. Like I don't know how to word this without sounding like a dick. Like, I know my limits of what I know, and no matter how much I try to expand it, I'll never know every little grainy little detail about something. I think it's important to showcase other people. That's why even with the Decibel Omega video I did, I showed, I don't know, like Sonic Pulse or someone, because he had a whole video just dedicated to one album of every little verse on
was it Pericletus?
Oh yeah, Pericletus.
Yeah.
And no, not Pericles. It was that's the fan favorite. The other one, that Pelagonesia. The Furnaces of Pelagonesia.
Furnaces of, but that's from like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, and that's all about like good. That's basically that's like the 1984 of like a black metal album, and it's really interesting. And there's so many things to dissect in that album alone that he did like a 20-minute video just on that one. I did a 30-minute video on everything about them. So there's a big difference there. And it's important, I feel like, to showcase other people that have their own say in it, because I don't want my saying to be like the definitive thing. It's still all opinionated.
Yeah.
And I try to do that with everything. Even the breakcore video, I think someone brought up a whole like fan-made documentary of just like breakcore's beginnings. But one guy, he used to have a video, but he took it down, I guess. He brought up the fact of like how to get into breakcore and understand it better. And one thing he said that was really interesting was arguably the first thing you've ever heard of breakcore was the Powerpuff Girl theme song. Like that is technically a breakcore song to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, when you're really into a subgenre, you like, right, you like see these connections that other people don't. Like when you were, that take I was talking to you about, when you said that like the first, what was it? You were saying like the first black metal band was Amoebix or something.
Amoebix.
Or the first black metal record was Amoebix. Like I love takes like that, because it's like it's like you wouldn't have thought of it, but it just makes so much sense once you hear it. It makes you question like, okay, well, what makes something black metal? If the first black metal thing is a non-black metal record, technically, then what's black metal about it? And it starts to you start to really question,
Yeah, because I got this one dude who messages me because he's from like the UK. He's a little bit older than me, and like, I'm wondering, like, why isn't this guy made a channel? Because it's like everything he knows is like twice as much as I know. And he was like, Amoebix is arguably the first ever black metal band. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because it's like, it feels distinct to say either Venom or Bathory. And he's like, yeah, you listen to the album Arise. It's really dark for a crust punk album.
Yes, yeah.
And then he talks about like all the things they did with like satanic rituals and how they were as individuals in their own life. And it's like, fuck, this resembles it so much.
Yeah.
And you can argue that the first Bathory album, the first Venom album were just dark thrash albums. So it's something to question there.
Yeah. It's just the darkness. I mean, things that come out of punk, typically when I think of punk, D-beat, hardcore, anything, right, it's like you don't think of atmosphere or darkness or that mist quality. So it's like Amoebix does kind of have that. Even a little bit of keyboards. I mean, not like goth choir shit, but like there is a little bit of that. Yeah. Man. So all right, so let's like well, see, I'm sort of assuming that everyone's watching knows you, but the thing is, my audience might not possibly. So everyone, welcome to the Last Things live stream. I've got Wyattxhim here. Very happy to have Wyatt here. Really pleased because, as Wyatt was saying, he's getting more and more selective with who he affiliates himself with. So this is elite shit. This is cult. This is true with a V. It's brutal with the 2 zeros. This is all stuff from like 10 years ago, but but I'm like, yes. We're going to talk. We don't have to just talk metal either, but I am interested in kind of like, I'm interested in how how you got, that's not necessarily how you got into metal, but how you got into doing this YouTube channel and everything. But tell folks up top, let's just start off conversationally. What are you listening to right now?
Danieri Volonté.
Okay.
Like you could even ask my wife. You'd be like, "What is Wyatt listening to?" She'd be like, "Oh, the Danieri Volonté dude. He keeps bringing him up every time we go on a car ride. He'll take my phone and put Danieri Volonté on Spotify. It's just, I don't know. Danieri Volonté. What interests me so much about him is I can't tell you exactly what he's trying to play, because people say, "Oh, it's like military pop, it's post-industrial, and it's a lot of other things." And you pick apart everything that this guy does, and it's like, I don't know what to say, because people say he's a neo-folk band. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call him that.
That's how he was presented to me. Like, oh, you like neo-folk? This is a little different. But I was like, I wouldn't take it that way. Thing is, I only heard like a tiny little bit of Danieri Volonté, and it was one of those things where I was like, this is the sickest shit I've ever heard. This is my new favorite shit. And then I just never followed up on it. It's just like one of those things. It just got like lost in the mix. But like off the bat, I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Military pop.
Yeah.
That rules.
At like the first 3 albums, it gets into that military aspect. But I don't know, because it's like 1 minute he has synth pop. Other minute he has neoclassical. Next minute it is neo-folk. Then there's some forms of industrial. But he sings like he's in a post-punk band.
Yeah.
The percussions sound like he's in a marching band. I'm like, what is this dude? What is this dude's influences? Because it's all over the place, but yet it sounds cohesive. It makes sense. I'm so intrigued by it.
I don't know though. It's like some of this shit. Like when I think like, if I heard Death in June when they like first came out or something, that to me would sound like kind of a bizarre,
it's their album
collection of influences where it's like it's got the Joy Division shit and then they're starting to do the neo folk stuff. Like that. Like now it makes sense because they're a thing and have been a thing for 40 years. At the time, I might have just been like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, especially their album was, I think, Burial with the statues on it. Is that that's easily, for their standards anyway, when they were starting, a weird album, because it's like experimental new wave to an extent. It's not necessarily neo folk to me. But again, when you think of Death in June, you think of the starting points for neo folk, and immediately for me, it's by what ends when the symbol shatters, like the first thing that will always come to mind. So I'm like, all right, so this is the staple sound for neo folk. And then when you hear something like Danieri Volonté being considered neo folk, it's like I'm very confused now with stuff like this. But then you look at something like what is it? It's something TV. Like not Static TV, or like, I thought it starts with a P, but it's like,
wait, are we talking about Psychic TV or
Psychic TV? That is like 50% industrial and 50 neo folk, 50 folk music. And I know that's what like neo folk is as a whole, but it's like it goes back and forth on each side, and it's like, you could call that neo folk, but I almost want to call it like just industrial folk. I don't know. I know it's like you start splitting hairs.
I mean, shit like Psychic TV and like Throbbing Gristle. I mean, a lot of that stuff, even like Coil. I mean, to me, a lot of what's heavy about that shit is that it's confusing. I mean, it's really like, even now that we know everything about these guys, it's like still kind of like, how, like, what is like the deal with just these combinations of genres? Like, is this even about music, or is this about something even more occult than the sounds? Like, is it just more about like how they're rolling like magic wise or something, more like, is that what they're even, are they more just going for magic than for any particular sound, so it's like, I mean, I love confusing shit, but then like I don't know, but then but then it's like, just in general, extreme metal, man, when I think about extreme metal, and then when I was checking out your channel, man, I just think about like purity, like, and not purity as in like recreating a genre, and not necessarily purity as in like fucking race and nation and shit, although sometimes that, but more like, but just that like the world of metal, like extreme metal, people in extreme metal appreciate music in a way that is very pure, very about literally riffs, you know?
Yeah, I
and then,
think the
you know,
reason for that is metal, and I'm talking everything. Its attitude, its subculture, the fashion of it, and the music has been consistent for 50 years. It
yeah,
really hasn't. Like, all right, yeah, there are bands that will push the envelope, but there's always so many that want to be like, nah, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, I want to keep that sound alive. And they have, which is impressive that they do that. And you would think that gets boring, that gets sickening, it gets repetitive. And yeah, there are bands that had that influence and they wear it on their sleeves so hard, you'd have to be
yeah,
tone deaf not to notice it. But I feel like on the opposite end of it, where the bands want to just like experiment off the wall, it keeps the two like strong, I feel like, in a sense, because you start admiring both sides more, is how
yeah,
I look at it.
yeah. No, totally. I mean, I love, even with just super far out experimental shit. I don't know. People talk about the sound. You know, people talk about the sound more than anything. And then there's, you know, the lyrics and the imagery and the potential politics on where there. People talk about that too, but like it's always music first. From people who are really into it. From people
Yeah.
who are just kind of tourists, like dabbling. Then they're just like, ooh, the Varg killed somebody, you know. But like,
Mhm.
but people who are really in this, it's always riffs first, and then the
Yeah.
lore, and then the lore is just something. Oh, how interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if it's just, I've always wondered too, like, why is that? Maybe it's just, I think what it is, out of all the subgenres of music you can find, metal's sound is just powerful. It's always been powerful. It's always been, I want to sound larger than life. That's
yes,
how it's always been. I think that's a huge reason as to why so many people just say riffs first, is because even if it's just like I don't know, some underground metal band playing at some like shitty ass bar, they still want to give off that larger than life sound. They still want to sound like as if they're selling out arenas like Judas Priest or Metallica.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of like lyrics and stuff. People, sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. I think a lot of people love extreme metal bands without caring about the lyrics that
Mhm.
much, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could like name some Morbid Angel lyrics, maybe a little bit of the like Lovecrafty shit here and
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. So yeah, like what would you say? All right, like, so this is what I think a lot of people who listen to Last Things. I think there are people who are pretty into like extreme metal, but then a lot of people who are like they're like not knowledgeable yet, but
Mhm.
they're like experimental music cats, right? So like if you were gonna like try to, you know, you're talking to someone who's like a big way into late Coltrane or way into like Stockhausen or way into like Autechre or something, and they
Mhm.
know what black metal sounds like, but they're like not, but they're just such noobs that they just heard about something called Burzum and that's it. Where would you start like hipping somebody? Like, would you just send them straight to like Deathspell and Portal and like Ride for Revenge, or would you like work them
I would
toward
welcome
like,
it because the thing that impresses me about black metal, and I think it's a huge reason I've been so invested in it, is this is just a subgenre, yet there's so many ways to make black metal. It's like it both invites the idea of experimentation, but on the other opposite end, you have bands that don't even want to try anything new and just want to keep the Transylvanian hunger sound going for forever. And I think when it comes to stuff like that, I like knowing what they're into. Like, all right, so some type of like industrial experimental stuff, you would tell them about Bluthaus Nord, a band that
yes,
never seems to ever be consistent. But as for like, I don't know, soul music, like you say, Coltrane, or um, I don't know. I would give them something lush. I'd give them
okay,
something that feels like it's emotive, because black metal can be emotive. I mean,
oh yeah,
sure, it's usually like Alcest ripoffs, but something like Lantlos or Agalloch to an extent. I don't know
oh
if you
yeah,
would call Agalloch black metal because they seem to have a lot of other things. But Ulver, early Ulver too, like anything
yeah,
lush, I feel like would sell people on
yeah,
that.
or even just Emperor, something that just old, you know, yeah,
Yep, yep.
yeah. I could see that. Yeah, and for the for the more experimental leaning folks, I mean, there's like I don't know, Deathspell is a good starting point. I'm fascinated how just like stuff that's related to black metal, but is so experimental that it's like totally it's completely sound wise goes off the map, but yet somehow is respected 100% as black metal, like, you know, being really true. Like, I'm thinking of Ride for Revenge, who I'm like really, really into. And then, you know, especially the stuff that sounds like the least like black metal. Then like, man, I was really into like Virus for a while, you know, and it's like, I maybe that's just because the guy was in that other band, but like that's like the least black metal sounding thing ever, but they're like still considered,
I think,
like the real deal of like
I think with black metal, the whole attitude of like you want to be like anti-norm, so it's like it's harsh, it's almost like punishment to an extent. Just that aspect people in black metal find a big appeal to, because I look at Gnaw Their Tongues, what Maurice does. I'm gonna be real, a majority of what he does is not black metal, yet it's always labeled a black metal band. It's like he's more fascinated with harsh noise, he's more fascinated with stuff like Genocide Organ than black metal. And I think it's because of this just incredibly vile, harsh sound, just like Ride for Revenge, Emit, which I know is more on the dark, on the dark ambient side, and even stuff from like the LLN that did all the dark ambient stuff. I think it's just this ungodly, unforgiving, dark, morbid, harsh sound that black metal fans look for that other genres can provide. And that's like why they'll be like, oh, well, it's black metal because it still carries the sound in some kind of a way. Yeah, man. I mean, I often like, I often am like asking myself what I'm getting out of certain music, whether it's Slate Coltrane or like a Brahms intermezzo or fucking whatever, just like Morbid Angel. Like, I'm often asking myself, and it's like, it's weird, man. Like when I was getting into, I'm trying to think how to say this. There's certain extreme metal that is timeless for me and ages perfectly. I'm like, this is just a part of me forever. And then there's some stuff where I'm just like, I am not fucked up enough anymore to need this, like emotionally, like, you know what I'm saying? There's like, I mean, we're talking about Deathspell, we're talking about Bloodhouse Snort. It's like, I could be in the best mood on earth and listen to that music. And I probably will when I'm 80 years old. But I was like going back and checking out like certain bands like Black Witchery, like Diocletian, some of this. Oh, you're talking the war metal stuff.
Like more like
that's just pure aggression.
And I'm just like, I'm just like listening to shit, and I'm like, damn, man, I was into this when I was doing not well, and now that I'm doing better, I don't relate to it as much, you know. But it's weird. Then like, there's a lot of death metal that it's not about hate. I don't know.
No, it's stuff like that, like Black Witchery, Revenge, Diocletian, like that's just pure aggression. And I feel like it seems to be like, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, even though it will, it's like a lot of meatheads that just want like caveman like riffs as they call it, and like nothing flashy. Like I just want pure aggression. And I feel like metal, it's like, it's that unforgiving nature that people want, that larger than life sound. And with Black Witchery, Diocletian, you're getting that, but just in the aggressive standpoint now. Right. This would be like, I want ultra violence now, and that's what it will give unapologetically. Yeah. Actually, Diocletian's lyrics are like so creepy. It's like, it's kind of a cut above as far as Diocletian's lyrics are kind of like War Crimes the musical is what that shit is. Yeah. Fucking creeps, man. I mean, so like I'm interested in you know, not just the music, but like just you, like, I mean, I know we're not gonna get all like weirdly personal, but just like how you got going with like I don't mean like the first black metal record you heard, but just like doing the YouTube channel. Cause it's like, it seems like you've been doing it for like almost 10 years, but then you've only really been going hard on it for like 4 or something. So here's the thing. There's a lot of videos I deleted because around 2014, 2015, 2017, I was doing it like every day. And I look back on a lot of those videos where it was like, I valued quantity more than anything. There was no quality with it. It was just like, I'm throwing words up in the air that's positive, and so it's like, go check it out because I said it's positive, and it's like, it's just shit. It was just so bad. That's why honestly my YouTube channel should have, it says I have like a little over 200 videos. It should say I should have like 1,500 because it was that bad. And I don't know, like when I started taking breaks, when I started getting into a better relationship, which I'm not going to get down into that little rabbit hole, but like I started like thinking I need to value this better. And I started learning just basic editing, like how to do cuts. That way I'm not going like, every time I'm talking. And, you know, having editing in the sense that like now the album is like right there next to my head. It just comes off cleaner, more professional, and I don't know, just more inviting, I feel like. And I think another thing too that makes it interesting is how, for me, I don't want to do just one style of video. So I don't want to do just explaining videos. I don't want to do icebergs every time. I don't want to do comedy videos all the time. And it's like the last video I did, I talked about what I dislike about metal, which that's rare that I do things I dislike. Yeah, that is rare. And I need this variety or else it just becomes like a chore to me. If all I did was reviews, this would be so boring.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, people with like making a million videos, or if you're doing a podcast, a million podcasts, I mean, people are always like, you know, consistency is number one. If you're trying to build an audience, you know, if you're really thinking like you know, you have some goal of like, I'm going to get 1 million followers, like this kind of career type ambition. People are like, yo, make stuff all the time, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like you're kind of like not really like, are you kind of like not really sweating that businessy kind of vibe, right? You were just going really hard and then you just
I rather make one video that will have people listen to an album 100 times than 100 videos where everyone listens to it just once. I rather have that motivation with it. And I don't know, what's crazy is I probably have gotten a lot more traffic ever since I really started keeping it back with the uploads, which is funny enough.
I was going to ask that. Yeah. Did you get a lot of followers? Yeah. Back then or more now?
I think even too in a strategic sense that works because it allows your audience to see it more. Thus, the analytics and the algorithm, of YouTube will promote it more. Because when you do a video every day, you're not allowing your videos to grow. Therefore, it gets overlapped by the next thing you do. Is what I've noticed.
Okay. This is good to think about. Right. It's like you're crowding. It's like you're crowding your own channel if you just keep following up with something that's second rate after a really good one, right?
Yeah, I remember the first video that ever broke 100,000 views was my black metal iceberg video. And there's a lot I have to say about that specific video, which I wish people would take into consideration when making stuff. But I remember it broke 10,000 views in a day. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck's going on right now for me? And then I was like, I'm going to let it sit. And then I started noticing every day the views doubled more and more. And I think because usually I like to do a video once a week. But that one time I was like, I'm not going to do a video this week because something's happening right now with this. And I'm going to let it just marinate. And it did. And it blew up. For like my standards anyway. I know for YouTube standards it ain't shit, but for my standards, getting a video with 6 digits on it was just insane for me. And I think it's important to let videos marinate, let the algorithm kind of promote it more because it allows different people to see it. Yeah. If I did that video, the Black Metal Iceberg chart, and then like 5 days later I did something, I do not think that video would have broke us into the 6 digits. It wouldn't, because now the fascination's on the next thing. And what I want to say about that Black Metal Iceberg chart that's funny is that was one of the first videos I took inspiration from something that wasn't a music channel, because there's this channel I watch, Windigoon, and he had a video all about the most disturbing movies all as an iceberg. And I was like, okay, so that's just going to be what? A Serbian film, 120 Days of Sodomy, Human Serpent. And that video had 8 tiers, and those 3 movies I just said were only in tier 3 of 8. So I was I was like, what the fuck is out there? And then when he got to like the last tier, he was talking about just basically mixtape videos of just like all ultra gory shit you would find on the internet, but people just compiled it into a compilation.
Just not even movies, just ISIS beheading.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing, like iceberg charts, what you consider to be the norm of the topic is really getting pushed to its limits, that it's only like scratching it, like it's only like in it by like a little bit. The only thing resembling like the first tier, which had like, I don't know, Friday the 13th, and the bottom tier was that it's just both films that you can watch in a sense. That was the only thing relating to it.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching this thinking, wow, that was really cool. And then I was like, hell, I could do this with black metal because of all the subgenres. So that's why when people are like talking about the first tier and the last tier, and the last thing I brought up was Emit, which I've always joked with friends is like the harshest black metal I know. People are like, well, that's not black metal. That's dark ambience with some black metal. I'm like, that right there is why it's in there. It resembles it just by a smidge now.
Yeah, man. It's funny. The iceberg charts, I actually only before seeing them on your channel, I actually purely associated them with like memes, like meme culture. Like that was so I would see them. Yeah. Like I didn't yours, I was like, oh, this is actually like a pretty like rigorous. This is like more rigorous than I thought iceberg charts usually are. You know, like
same thing. When I saw Windigoons, I was like, oh, this is a joke. And then the moment I knew it wasn't a joke is when I saw that 120 Days of Sodomy was not even halfway down. I'm like, this is some serious shit right now. What's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, are you the only person on YouTube? Because I watch metal related content on YouTube sometimes, but I'm not like scouring the whole like. You know, I'm not like all like looking for all the like black metal and death metal shit on YouTube. I mean, are you kind of like the only person? I know you probably want to be relatively modest or whatever, but it's like you've got a really niche. It's like, I mean, it's like it's very, very niche. Like you're going deep into the iceberg with this stuff, and it seems like the audience that you're talking to, there's like a lot of assumed knowledge. Right. You know what I mean? Like you don't talk to people on the level of like, hey, so we've all heard Death Heaven. Let's talk about there's an experimental, you know, like you had a video that was like my favorite Finnish death metal other than Nespith.
Oh,
I
was
was like, if Demolich is considered basic bitch here, like we are in the fucking weeds in the best way right here. You know what I mean? I'm like,
that was still like me testing the waters of like what was weird, because what's funny about that video is I don't think I really talked about anything in Finnish death metal that was like really that unheard of. I think my problem with that, and this is like so not like a really good argument, was I remember there was just all the memes about Demolich, because then they started roughly getting back together doing live shows. So now there's more attention to them because of that album, and the frog vocals being like a little joke. So I was like,
is that a meme? He sounds
like the frog. The frog vocals. So I was like, you know, let's just test the waters of what I see and see what I can build off of that. And like, I would say with YouTube, I've done a lot more failures than success stories with it. And I'm still trying to learn from that. And that's a video that I don't really feel like I did really all that much different, because it's Finnish death metal. Everyone should just kind of know that if you know what just that is to begin with.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a lot of trial and error with me. And go on.
Like you're like do you feel sometimes the trial and error is like speaking like you're like targeting the like who you're talking to a little bit? Like is it sort of like oh, maybe I assumed that they're too much this way or assumed too much that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like is that part of the trial and error maybe? Or like you go over someone's head, or you're like too cult or too basic bitch, like
just too precise. It was too precise of a video, I feel like, to just be like Finnish death metal, not Nespith. Let's just like die. It was just too precise. I feel like what makes YouTube exciting when like talking about like unknown stuff is present a title that you get the information but you don't get the answer. And with that video, I feel like I gave the answer with a video like that. Like iceberg charts, what makes them entertaining for me is I'd love to know the answer of what's at the bottom, regardless of what the topic is.
Yeah, right.
If it's stuff I know or barely don't know, that's what makes it fun. Like if someone did, I don't know, an iceberg chart on hip hop, I'd love to know what the fuck is at the bottom.
Yeah. I don't know if there's as much of a thing in like hip hop of like knowing like just people getting into the most obscure stuff and there being a point of pride that you know about. But maybe though, I don't. Yeah.
Oh, there is. There are definitely some that's like, all right, like again, Techno Animal with Brotherhood of the Bomb, that would be in the middle. It's like it's experimental, but you still get the idea of it. And then there's some like Blackie that's like B space L space C.
Oh,
like
yeah, I've seen
that dude is like really harsh punk rap where it feels like he's punching you in the face with every verse, because that is harsh hip hop.
Yeah. They play, or they play with like a lot like hardcore bands and and some metal shit and stuff. Yeah, man. I'm interested. So yeah, like, so with building up the YouTube channel, man, did you kind of come out of I mean, you're like in your 20s, right? Or you're young, right? Or what, like
late 20s now.
Late 20s, yeah. So like, I mean, but you're that age where like did you come up through like certain internet subcultures of like, I guess you're a little, maybe you're the age where message boards were a thing, or like, were you coming up through like a Tumblr vibe or like Discord gamer shit? Like, what's your angle into the internet originally?
So my first like real like getting into the internet was Xbox Live with Halo 3, because I was like, this is online. Like there was someone shooting at me in this game right now, and he's in a different place. I was like so amazed at that, because I was so used to single player stuff, and like that was like from like what I can remember me really getting into like online in some sense. And then a few years later, or not actually, like around that same time, I was like, well, how do I do this, and that in Halo? So I would go on YouTube, where of course there's a billion videos all about Halo 3 stuff. And they're like, oh, so there's like communities all about Halo 3. Neat. So while I'm playing Halo 3, I want to listen to music. And this is like when I was obsessing over him, 3 Days Grace, Slipknot, like nice. really stuff. And then it's like, all right, so there are the videos promoting it. There are the labels promoting it. Or like someone with like a throwaway account uploads a music video with like 360 pixel or something like that. And it'd be like, interesting. Yeah. So I'm getting more into that. And then you start noticing people like talking about music, like reviewers. Because I remember my freshman year of high school was the first time I ever watched The Needle Drops. And he was talking about Lulu. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's bald with these giant glasses talking about this album, and like he's discussing it. Like, what is a review?
Yeah.
So I'm learning that. And it wasn't until like, I'm trying to think like what really got me into like death metal. I'm talking like the Children of Bodom, Amar and Marth death metal, really simple stuff.
So you were like, but wait, keep going. But you were kind of saying like you started to get into being interested in reviewing stuff on YouTube before, or kind of at the same time as you were getting into extreme metal and stuff. It was kind of concurrent. Yeah.
Because like what was so cool about it is like I wanted to tell people it's like this is happening. Look how fast they're playing. Listen to how powerful this sounds. This is so different from what I'm used to. This is what music sounds like that's not on the radio. Like, you know, I'm like probably 17 or like 18 listening to this and just being amazed by it. But I had no one to talk to about it with. And one thing I shouldn't, I hate mentioning, I used to have a meme page on Facebook, and it was so fucking stupid. But I was like, this is the only way I can talk about it. It's Facebook pages with memes with the bottom and top and bottom text type of stuff. And then that got boring.
Dude, memes are deep, dude. Memes are the way we understand the world now, man. I mean, if they're good,
making memes all the time can get boring.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me try YouTube, because it was stuff like Infidel Amsterdam that really set the stage for like, all right, so you can talk about metal like this, have a CD collection, have knowledge about it, and inform people of like more esoteric stuff. Okay. So I was like, let me try that. And a lot of the reviews I did were very bad. It was just basically like album good because album is good because they're playing it good. It was basically what it was broke down to, is what I was saying. And I don't know. I think what also helped was I think I started doing YouTube when I started my second shift job as a machine operator. And it's like I would get home at midnight and I was awake because usually I would sleep until like 2 p.m. So I had no one to talk to about this. Everyone's asleep. So I'm like, might as well talk to myself to a camera and just start saying how much I enjoy this stuff. And for the first 3-4 years, that is like the ultimate trial and error, which is why so much of it is deleted, because it was just so cheap. It was just there's nothing to gain from it, I feel like, just other than title of album, I'm going to say it's good, and that's it. And I don't feel like that's really anything to
well, it's a recommendation at the very least.
Yeah, I
mean,
know.
you know, I mean, see, now you're at a place where you have enough followers, like there probably is a value if you wanted to do a low effort video, which you don't, but if you literally were just like album good, that actually would probably help people.
I don't know. It's like, it's just, I don't want to sell myself like that here because it's not offering anything. I feel like just making an Instagram post would be just as effective. So why make a whole 9-minute video about it if I can just do an Instagram post about it? Yeah. I feel like now with what's going on with YouTube is people are really fascinated with just like niche information that, sure, it might not be valuable. It might not be anything that'll improve your life. But I think people are realizing now how vast the internet really is, that you can learn about such esoteric things like on the spot. And people find fascination with it. I mean, I do with Wendigoon, with like all the weird stuff he talks about. And that's just Wendigoon. God forbid all the other people that talk about like weird, esoteric, surrealist movies.
Yeah.
I think now is the time to be a little bit more informative instead of just doing just opinionated videos saying, like, I don't know, when 20 Bucks Spin, that label releases an album, everyone's like, album good, album 8.5 out of 10, album good. And it's like, what really are we doing here other than just saying album good?
Yeah.
And that's what I don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Your videos always have like a some point that you're making that you would, it's not obvious. It's not obvious that you would think it. It's not necessarily super controversial or insane, but it's like there's always something. There's this like specific point that you're like explaining. I mean, yeah, usually not negative, but critical. You know, I mean, there'll be like things where you're like, I really dislike this about the way you're often criticizing the way people talk about things and the way people, you know, like there's
I don't know,
words, just, you know, yeah.
I know I criticized it big time, and I don't dislike him because I still think he's influential to just music discussions as a whole. But like the needle drops, I feel like so many people just look at what he does, which is just the whole aspect of his videos is his opinion, and he makes it up front. And this has been his formula for, like, I don't know, 15 years, how long this guy's been doing it, which I give him credit for that because that's insane.
Yeah, I like
it. Yeah. No, I do. I sure the one thing I dislike about him is when he has like a take that I don't like, that's as deep as it goes. So you really can't like dislike him on a personal level. I just look at it that so many people look at his formula and think that's all it takes. I just need to do reviews, say album good or bad, and that's it. And I don't feel like that adds anything. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's you got to have some kind of like, like broaden it out somewhere from just like your little opinion and stuff. I mean, I like you have great takes though. Like, I like how you don't go, it's like always like music, sound, riffs, musical substance first and foremost, but you do branch out into cultural takes and like some like political like commentary, but you also have this very like level-headed kind of like down the middle sort of centrist, like kind of poking fun at both sides of the political spectrum and kind of having a sense of humor about like it's sort of like a light touch, but being willing to go there, you know, but not too much. I think the way you have that in the channel is really something I really liked about it. It's not overdoing that, but it is there a little, you know.
No, especially with the political commentary stuff, that's another trial and error. Because I look at one of my most viewed videos, that Decibel Omega's NSBM stuff, which I look at that back when I uploaded it, I thought it was a good idea. And now I look back on it, there's a lot of things that I feel like I said very arrogantly, like the whole like separating art from artist thing is so black and white, just like get over it. And it's like, no, not really now, because I don't know, just if music's all about expression and emotions, then getting an expression back like I'm offended by this, I'm upset at this, is totally valid. Because I hate the argument of like, just don't be a pussy. And it's like, can we really say that about art really anymore? It's like saying the artist is saying, I hate you. I wish you would die. Don't be offended though.
yeah. No, totally. I mean, yeah, the thing, I mean, for me, the thing is, it's like, I hate the idea. I'm all about separating it in the sense of that, like, I would never not listen to something because of the person's views, or even because of hideous stuff that they did. And I mean, censorship is unacceptable. I mean, there's absolutely not, but even self-censoring, like, I have no ethics about, supporting or platforming, but yeah, like you said, I'm not into just get over it in the sense of, I don't know, like bands like Argo Slent or something, where it's like with no lyrics, it's the best riffs on earth. And then with the lyrics, I mean, it's like racist to the point where it's like not really.
It's on the nose. It's so unapologetically on the nose. And I don't know, like one band I like a lot, which is like unapologetically sketchy, and they've always been, was Pest Noir. I've always liked them.
I can't.
But now it's
them, but yeah, musically, but yeah.
But for me, it's like, I don't know. Ever since Famine did like the whole blackface thing, which, I mean, I rolled my eyes because I'm like, this is how he's always thought. But the thing is, no one really noticed that, which I don't understand, considering that their first demo is called Aryan Supremacy, and everyone's like, nope, they're not racist. No, they're not.
People make excuses for the band more than the band even wants them to make excuses for them. They're like, we're telling you, and they're like, no, I like. But for me, it's like, I mean, it's like, if I'm gonna listen, I'm very into not being in denial about what I'm listening to. Like, you know what I mean? I'm never going to turn it off because the dudes are Nazis, but I want to know if they are just out of interest. I mean, just out of the poetics of the music, or if they're not fascist, I'm interested in, but maybe they're super elitist or occultist elite, whatever, that kind of satanic war master type, whatever.
I think it's because of like that against the norm attitude. And I know this is like in that national racist sense where people get just interested just because it's different from what we know. And I think that's a humongous reason why Varg is so huge, is because I don't know, I feel like the thing that supported Varg more than anything are the people not trying to support him, to be honest, because I don't know, when I hear people say like, screw him, he should not be mentioned, and he didn't suffer enough in jail, and all he did was terrible. It's like, it just makes me want to listen to him because you're talking about him. And I know that's like, I know that's edgy and spiteful, but fuck, it kind of goes back to that idea of like what I said with like music and expression and emotion. And I'm getting this emotion out of this, that now I just want to pursue the emotion I'm feeling with it. It might not be a positive emotion, obviously, but it's still an emotion I'm getting from it.
Yeah. No, I mean, just pure power. Like, you're talking about just power, larger than life, like, I mean, it's anti-human. It's an anti-human spirit and stuff, that like you could call evil or not. You could just call it like some kind of ancient like power that we don't keep in normal society or something, but yeah, like, that's so funny. People saying he didn't suffer enough in jail. That's where all of a sudden the left loves prisons. Like when the guy was racist, they're like, give him the electric chair. It's like, really?
I don't know.
But yeah, you make good fun of the left and right in that. And you have a thing of libertarian black metal. Is that a thing? You had the guy in the fedora with the money.
I made that completely up. That video, all of those videos were because I was watching this guy called J-Reg, like J-R-E-G, and he does a lot of like political satire, but he'll act out the stereotypical alt-left, alt-right, lib-left, and lib-right. Like he acts it out to the point that nobody knows what his politics are. And to some people that's dangerous, but to me it's like, it's refreshing because I'm tired of seeing people just echo chamber thoughts. And I like something to challenge my own thoughts, which is why I like doing thought videos. I like doing and saying stuff that is on my mind, because I want people to challenge what I think, not just what they think, but what I think. And I think it's really molded me in a positive way for my own aspect of it, at least. But no, with the lib right stuff, the libertarian stuff, it was just like, what if I were to do the cliches of it, but like as a black metal band, it would just be all marketing and
yeah. No, it's such a weird, like, it's the least mystical like position. It's like the least occult position is like ANCAP, like fucking anarcho-capitalist shit. But yeah, like it's I don't know, with metal, it's like almost oh yeah, Brett says the Dasha versus Varg tweets were perfect. Yeah, those were really, really good. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I feel like there's gonna be more. I don't know any really awesome like hard left wing black metal stuff. I feel there is. Yeah, who should we check out on some real like Antifa shit?
Trespasser. Okay. Trespasser. This dude, it sounds like it's intimidating, and that's what I want in black metal. I want it to give off a larger than life sound. Trespasser, which I mean, they talked about when the anarcho activists like in the Ukraine, like I forget the whole history about it, but it was like in the early 1900s. So there's history in it, and it feels well thought out. It's not just capitalism bad, I'm a victim, feel bad, which is something like Dawn Raid does, which Dawn Raid's a band that gets made fun of a lot. And honestly, they should be made fun of more because it's just terrible. It's so
not good. That shit that shit's not good.
Trespasser, on the other hand, it's like, yeah, it's about, anarchy. It's about anarcho-communism, and it sounds intimidating. It makes me believe it's like, fuck, these people could honestly fuck up the fascists, which is what they're trying to do. Yeah. And Trespasser, I'm telling you, like, it will just bulldoze over you because it sounds like a Marduk album.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the most right-wing position is just to say, let them battle it out, and whoever wins is the new regime that we must respect because might makes right. And if it's leftist might that wins, then we should respect that. I don't know. It's like if it's, let's just let Hitler and Stalin battle it out. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's like so okay, Trespasser. This is good to check out because I'm like, I feel like there's gonna be more and more, But
yeah, there will be. Trespasser right now gives me hope. Then I want them to be the spotlight. That way it kind of gives more bands that think like them to stop doing the whole like I'm a victim sound, because if metal's overall sound is to be larger than life, and I'm saying that with every genre, the ones that are legit to the fan-made ones, to the comical ones, to the serious ones, if that's the whole point, then why take advantage of that by just being like, I'm a victim and it's larger than life, me being a victim, which is what, I'm sorry, Dawn Raid, that's what it radiates the whole time. And
I mean, this is what the left has been struggling with for a long time, is how to have a left that isn't based in resentment or resentment, something that is powerful and vital and libidinal,
And I don't know, it's like it can be aggressive because you look at stuff like crust punk, for example, is in like that, like a narco-communist type of sound, and it sounds intimidating. I think what Discharge did in the early 80s was like shouldn't say way ahead of its time because it was like pretty, bare bones, but like it set the stage for like, we can be mean, we can be aggressive and still care about just like human decency.
Yeah, it's threatening, man. I mean, I was into Dystopia. I was never a big crust head, but that band in particular,
Dystopia, that is an awesome band.
Yeah, Human Equals Garbage. Like, in high school was very much. I was like, okay, it didn't send me down a wormhole of crust. Yeah. But that thing of like there's politics and it like sells you on like while I'm listening to it, I'm like a fucking anarcho-communist. Then I put it off and I'm like, that would never work. That's retarded. But while it's on, I'm like, fucking
yeah. I don't know. It's and it's music like that. I just like the idea of challenging my norms.
Yeah.
I remember I don't know if I should even I'll say it, but like I remember like when I was like in my early 20s, I thought like lib right's the way to go. Just care about myself. That's it. This is so simple. And then you dive into like the aftermath of thinking that, and you realize that you can't just live on your own like this all the time. And there's no one out there that's going to like try to take you down or something like that. Like the idea of, caring about other people shouldn't be like this weak-minded thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I remember I had a friend at the time who told me it's healthy to challenge your ideas, even if it's just like the most absurd shit, just to say to yourself that I don't agree with that, or now I start agreeing with that. I think it's a powerful thing, and challenging your ideas, even if it's just like basic stuff, is very healthy. Yeah. And I don't know, like with music, you can get that to a certain extent. And I'm not looking to, I don't know, like I'm at the point now where I don't really know what I think anymore. And I know to some people that's a bad idea because you got to think now, you got to take a side. And it's like, by whose norms, though? If anything, you've just created your own norms that you're trying to destroy.
Yes. Well, I mean, there is something, and people are going to think I'm misusing words and being whatever. I think there's something totalitarian, not deliberately, but totalitarian about the idea that everyone has to have an ideology and have everything worked out.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually kind of like forcing people to do things that maybe they're not cut out for. You know, maybe I'm not cut out for like making political answers for how to live in the world. You know?
I think it's healthy to say I don't know with certain things, and you could argue, well, you got to educate yourself and do it now. And it's like, but yeah, now you're controlling my thoughts in a sense by like forcing me to do something.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's human nature just to not want to be forced into something of any kind.
Yeah,
I feel like that's just human nature, but I don't know. I wouldn't say I don't care, because if I said I didn't care, it's like, do whatever you want. You want to do the most vile things, most fucked up things, what? I don't care. I wouldn't say that, because I know that I don't feel like that's the correct answer to say I don't care. But for me, I don't know how else to put it other than I really just don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like to like one reason that I do like interfacing with certain types of politics that are somewhat noxious. I mean, I don't know, or that like seem fucked up, that I like questioning. There are things that I'm not going to change my mind on, but I still like to question why I believe them, even though I know I'm not going to change my mind.
Exactly. The whole idea with challenging your ideas.
It's just to be able to be like, okay, I still think what I thought, but now I can explain why better, because it's like it was assumed, like some shit that just seems absurd to say, but it's like, why am I not a white nationalist? Like you say that to people, they're like, well, of course you're not. It's like, I know, but even if I'm never going to become that, or never even close to become that, it's still good to ask yourself, no, like, can I spell out, if I'm talking to a white nationalist, can I spell out like why I think it's bullshit?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, if you never even think about it, then it's like, I don't know, you can't even interface with these people that
I think that's
around.
healthy,
exist,
because you know? I don't know. I think it's healthy to question it, because if you just keep echoing the same buzzwords, the same ideas, it's at some point someone's going to find a way as a loophole to argue against these buzzwords, or argue against the same like sentences that you're repeating that someone else says. So I think in that aspect, it's healthy to challenge it, just to adapt to what other arguments are. I feel like.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, something interesting to me, though, with the politics and black metal is like the vibe of evil, right? Like the vibe of calling yourself evil. Like, I was talking about that with a friend of mine, and I was like, if you're calling your own views evil, does that mean that you don't really believe them and you're just trying to be the opposite of shit? Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm
because Varg did that with like when he had like that whole interview, and the Nazi flags were behind him with the swastika, like that whole image too. Satanic Warmaster does it. He did it with one photo shoot, although at the same time he still affiliates himself with like NS bands like Aryan Blood. He was totally fine doing a split with a band called Aryan Blood,
Goat Moon, and all that shit.
Yep. I mean, that dude's unapologetically like nationalist. Like he calls it romantic nationalism, whatever the fuck that means.
Well, that's like Wagner basically, or whatever.
Yeah.
But for film, but I mean, but it's weird to me though. Like if you're like a nationalist, but then you're like call yourself evil, it makes it sound like you don't like. If you're really an ideologue, then you think you're the good guy. Like I was, you know, like if you're like Hitler wasn't like, ooh, I'm gonna do the evilest. Hitler in his mind was like an SJW. Like he was like, I'm doing. You know, like
I get what you're saying.
He thought he was Angela Davis or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because it's weird for again, we'll use Satanic Warmaster again with Werewolf. Like he will say he's like this evil individual, and then bring up these like I would assume he's self-aware of these evil things. So is it just solely the fact of sounding evil, because there's a lot other different ways to, describe being evil. Because you look at Norway bands, it's like, oh, Satanism, and the cliches of like what bands 10 years ago from what they were doing like Bathory and Venom with like satanic imagery. So they just kind of like echoed that, but changed the sound of it. And with these other bands you're bringing up, it's weird for a nationalist band to be like, I am evil.
Yeah.
I want to sound evil. I want to be evil. And here's my ideas because I'm evil. And it's just like, I don't know. It's hard in a sense to take it seriously almost to a certain degree.
Yeah. It's almost like calling themselves what they think, what a lib thinks of them,
Yeah, and
like
it's
being like, I want to have white babies and have my nation, and libs are like, that's evil, and they're like, yeah, exactly, I'm evil or whatever, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's like in the sense like we were bringing up at like anarcho communists or anarchists or like any leftist black metal bands do is like they can't echo that because they really want to make it known that they are the good people now. So it's like you want an evil sound, yet you want to be the good person. And I feel like, again, like a band like Trespasser, they're not necessarily being evil. They're just being very destructive and intimidating, which is what I think they want to sound like. And they do it very well, which is why I would recommend them to anyone who's into black metal. But
I'm going to check that out for sure. Yeah.
No, Trespassers, their first album, their latest one, they kind of get more into like, I don't know, themes to do with the Book of Revelations, which is like, it's okay. Because again, that's kind of a little cliche, but their first album is based off of like this Ukrainian anarchist, and it's so good.
Yeah. I mean, the whole like, but they have no satanic element. Is that
no? It's like really on the nose, like anarcho communism, like on the nose.
Because that's another thing is like Satanism. To me, I mean, obviously, neither of us are like scared of Satanism when we hear satanic lyrics. Obviously, like by the time you turn like 12, you're no longer like, ooh, spooky. But it is a weird thing where like people on the right side of things can be like, we're satanic, and like part of that is like this hyper elitism and possible racism and like possible like individualism taken to the point of immorality and killing people in order of 9 angles or whatever. Like you could do it that way, but then the Satanism can also be on this left thing where it's like anti-Christian because Christianity is patriarchal and the Catholic Church is evil, so it's like, I know these kind of more lefty Antifa people who also like the Satan, they're like, smash Christianity. And then Satanic War Master is like, it's like the left is like, Christianity is like not egalitarian enough, and then the right is like, no, it's like too egalitarian,
and what's interesting is I feel like both sides can agree on something. I know people think they're on the total opposite and they can't, but they can. Because I remember the discussion of like, what's the similarities between anarchy and nationalism, and the one thing they share is they want to preserve forestation, and they don't like the idea of advancing technology. But they want it for two different reasons, though. A nationalist would be like, no, this is my forest because of my country, where an anarchist is like, no, this is our forest for the world, which it's interesting there.
No, that's the thing. Well, because like nationalism, it's very like within your so-called race or ethnic group, it's like hippie shit. But then outside of that, it's just like, you're not even people. Whereas like, it's just sort of, like leftism is just that, but just taken to the whole human race. And so it's just like hippie for everybody. But I mean, these things, but I just, on a simple level, I just like, I like how you're dealing with this stuff on the channel, because I imagine, I mean, do you get shit from like, well,
both easily.
I was gonna imagine, because when you get to a certain point on the internet, you're gonna get shit from people all over.
There was this one dude who was like, saying all these, I'm not going to echo them because God forbid this video gets taken down for what he said, but like super ultra right, like stalking my Instagram, like making burner accounts, which I mean, he has every right to do because this is the internet. I would be a hypocrite to say that the internet is the Wild West of judgment, criticism, and shit talking, but then be upset that someone's doing it even to this insane degree, which he has every right to do that. And I would be a hypocrite to say he shouldn't do that. But I mean, this dude was like so upset because I don't know, probably because I was talking. Because I made a video about like good RABM, which is red anarchist black metal. So it's like explicit leftist bands. And I don't think people took too fondly of that one.
Right.
And
canceled from the right. It happened.
Yeah, they were like really upset. And like some dude, I think, thought I destroyed metal because of my iceberg charts, making it seem like black metal is now a joke, which I feel like black metal itself should be blamed for that. If it's like it just takes me to destroy off of an internet template.
Yeah.
But calling me like all this like the F word with the 6 letters and just like going hard saying like, God, I wish I could kill Wyattxhim, like really like explicitly violent stuff.
What a loser.
Yeah. And another dude got really upset because I thought Interrogating, which is like really like esoteric nationalist, I would say, because he could pretend all he wants that he's not far right, but it's like, dude, look at your imagery, look who you play with. You were like, he was excited to play with a band called Der Stroomer, which I mean, that's so on the nose.
That's Craig Pillard's noise.
No, not Craig Pillard. This is Antichrist Kramer.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, Craig Pillard. He's another one that's really explicitly.
Yeah.
But Totalitarian's like super ultra like on the right, but they'll try to deny it. But it's like you're not fooling anyone. And I said like I think Totalitarian's one of the worst bands I've ever heard. And I go on like this subreddit, and this dude made this giant paragraph calling me that I was Jewish because I looked Jewish, apparently, like with the big, apparently I had a big nose, and just like going on for like a book's worth of text. And I love how in the subreddit, the next comment was someone different saying, let me guess, he probably said the band's gay, like something like that, just being like, dude, calm down. But it was so funny. But on the other side now, they'll say that I'm racist, that I like Pest Noir, therefore I'm a white nationalist in disguise, that I don't know, I mean, I remember I made one joke about Neckbeard Death Camp, and I'm talking a single 1-second joke saying that like when Prosthetic Records screwed over Dragged Into Sunlight. And I'm like, wow, this is the biggest mistake they've done next to signing Neckbeard Death Camp. It was something just like very simple. Dude broke out being like, this dude is so far right. He looks far right. How can we expect it? And like, so on the point about that one joke in a 9-minute video I made. And I was like, dude, really?
If thinking Neckbeard Death Camp was cringe, if that makes you like a fascist, then like most people on earth would be a fascist. I mean, it's like I don't know who, like how many people actually took that seriously, like on any level. Like it's also so interneted out, like it's just neckbeard. Like I mean, that's funny. I know what they mean, but like it's just so internet politics, Like,
it was like meme culture to the maxed out degree on a band. And it's like, why is it so, I don't know, like villainous to just be like, I don't think this is that good, and you take it to that degree, I feel like, which just now makes it, I feel like, harder to take this music that you want to sell seriously as more of a joke now, if you're trying to sell it to me in a realistic sense. Yeah.
Well, do you have like but are there like bands or where it's either the lyrics or the music or the imagery that you currently are on some like, this is super dark and scary, and it's like not it's not like there's no like ironic detach, you know what I'm saying? Like is there stuff where you're like, holy shit, this like gives me the chills or whatever, or like lyrically?
The video I did about the most disturbing albums that I know, there was the one of Peter Sotos, Buyer's Market, which I know some people say is not music, but it counts to a certain extent. And I think it's the only album to ever make me cry. Like, honestly, I for the first time a month ago, I was like, I'm going to listen to it. I don't care how disgusted I am. I'm just going to listen to it. And then, like in YouTube, you can scroll through like the timestamps and it'll be like most replayed part. So I was like, you know what? It's been 5 minutes. I'm going to go to this part and see what happens. And hearing a child cry about what happened to him, and him like crying out saying he doesn't want to see his dad anymore, never before have I been so disgusted to the point that I started crying myself, and I'm like, all right, I'm shutting it off. So that's one instance that I can think of.
Jesus. Yes. I mean, I've read little fragments of his shit. Like I know what the content is, but I've never sat and like read or listened to, Peter Sotos. Yeah.
That's like the one that comes to mind.
I found on the topic of child molestation, that band, I hadn't thought of them in 10 years until literally right now. Woods of Infinity. That
what's that about? Because I only know that because they are related to Pest Noir, and I looked up the lyrics, and it's like pedophilia is the theme. I'm like, what song is this about?
I don't. Well, they had like children crying in like a really creepy way on it, and I can't remember. I haven't listened to it. I bet I'm going to listen to it after this stream. I have it on vinyl. I can't remember what the record's called.
Yeah,
I know what the spine looks like. I'm going to go fish it out later.
Right.
But it's no, it's like it had lyrics about pedophilia for sure.
Really? Wow. I was so confused. Like, really? Your lyrical themes explicitly pedophilia. I was like, what? Why?
I mean, it's more subtle than Nicole 12 or whatever. But yeah, I should watch your most disturbing video, like most disturbing records. Yeah, what else was on there? What, like, other than
John Zorn with Crystal Knock, because I feel like that is a perfect depiction of what Crystal Knock sounded like in a musical sense, which leave it to him to make something like that. But that
was like an hour long. Yeah, just breaking glass, man.
Yeah. There was that. The Death Industrial dude being Atrex Morgue. That dude is all about like being anti-life, and not like in this gimmicky sense. Like he hates just life for what it is, and the fact that he killed himself and hanged himself in 2007 makes it feel like all of that, what he was saying, was like direct, and the fact that it's Death Industrial being more affiliated with like improvisation makes me feel like when I listen to it, it's like he was like on the moment, any point, I'm going to fucking kill myself, even if I'm recording, is what that gave off. So to me, that's disturbing when you look at it in the context sense. I know musically you might just be like, oh, it's just noise, but I feel like when you attach context, albums start to change a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's one for me.
So that really disturbed. Yeah, like, so for you to get really disturbed, it's got to have a little bit of a context.
Yeah, like, context.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder. I don't know what I find like totally terrifying. Those are good man. That is those nail some shit for sure, man. I mean, I'm not a big noise cat. I'll be honest. I don't know what it is about.
I think it interests people when you're like, what's taboo in music? Like for its structure, and noise is that answer. It's taboo of music.
I just, because I'm like, for me, what has always been deep to me though about extreme metal, this is to even say extreme metal is kind of ridiculous. Like, it's just so vast. It's like we're talking about a billion subgenres, but what so much of like, the metal related shit that I'm into has always been about, and this is dorked out, but like notes, man, like notes. I mean, like actual, like, the power of harmonies. And like, I mean, there's just like metal musicians give a fuck. Like they, of like writing composed like riffs where the composition is like actually, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, even just shit that's not the most famous. I mean, just, I get what
you're saying. It's like, structure. So it feels like what they're trying to say is like it has meaning, and the structure is like, I really want you to know that I mean this.
Yeah. There's this like effort, like even like D-level like death metal bands.
Yeah.
Like it still is like people put so much effort. The drummer's awesome. Like, it's like, it's like people give a shit, in a way that noise. I don't know. Noise doesn't have that, vibe of achievement. Like metal's about like heroic acts, the acts of great men and women. But
now because again, the structure makes it feel like there's substance now, and noise arguably in terms of structure has no substance. It's more of like, I just want to be heard is something that it really gives off. And while there's the taboo nature of it, I think will always have an appeal on people. It's not something that I'll ever like maybe listen to for hours on end, but there's always that interest in terms of like the taboo attitude of it. I feel like.
Yeah, it's hard. I did a video about transgression in music and art. I mean, and in politics. And I definitely am not. I mean, I was never super into the idea of being a transgressive artist or whatever, but like I kind of like the idea in general of artistic transgression. I think I'm kind of just not down with that at all anymore. I think it's like I'm just into like actually just like almost respecting boundaries in a fucked up way. Like, I don't know. Or like, like just not trying to break rules, just trying to like, music as imposing order, not as in destroying, crossing lines, but music is like drawing your own lines, like making your own world, But I mean, there's a power to transgression, obviously. Yeah, whether it's being a racist murderer or whether it's being a cop killing anarchist, it's like this is both both transgression, but like I got a question that I was checking. This is a little bit going more back to the kind of going more back to the like you as a YouTuber, and just like what like the arc of what you've been doing. You had a video where you were like, dude, fuck paywalled content. You were like if you're doing that, you were like really, I mean, as actually one of the, I mean, of the videos of yours that I watched, that was like the most negative. I think that was the only thing I saw where you were like, fuck this. But yeah, like I don't know, is that something you want to flesh out? Because I'm kind of interested. Like, do you mean fuck any content that you have to pay for, or is it a specifically YouTube thing, or like how do you feel about Patreon? Like, what's your
here's my thing? Like, getting back to what got me interested in the internet, what got me interested with YouTube was the sense of all is kind of like at this equal level of like it's just there. And I don't think ad revenue or like monetizing your videos is wrong. I don't. If you can get paid from it, good. Even, and I'm saying this to even the people I don't care for on this site. If they do that, honestly, good for them. If they need to pay for a bill, good for them. It's ad revenue is not my issue. It's Patreon where it becomes like, honestly, like low tier capitalism. And it's funny when people say they're anti-capitalist, but they'll be like, Patreon, I'll do it. And it's like, you realize you're privatizing your stuff, which is capitalism now, and you're admitting that you're against it. And I don't think videos like this should be have a paywall to it when everything else on this site is built off of not paying for it. It's always been free. The last time YouTube cost anything was back in 2006 when it started. That's when you had to pay for it. Now it's all free. So where's this idea of like, oh, support my channel? It's like, no, it's free. So where are you getting that argument from? It's just people are trying to exploit their content. And I look at it that I don't care if you have $1 million setup or your setup is just some shitty, dirty webcam. It's all equally accessible to the public. It should be. And when you start doing paid content like this, you're explicitly saying now, I want this to be my job. And I don't know, it's just like, it's unethical from what I like about YouTube. It was never about that. So again, I know it's like, it's contradictory to some degree because people think I now hate ad revenue, and that's not the case. I've never had a problem with, like, in the ethnic sense of YouTube anyway, with ad revenue. If you can get paid just saying what you think, great. It's like, I think it's like that non-paid traffic, which I don't have a problem with. It's just explicitly saying up front, pay me and I'll do this, which I don't like. I've never liked that about YouTube.
No, people do that. I'm interested because I mean, I just recently started a Patreon, and so I'm doing what you're saying. I recently was like, I'm going pro. Not like all this shit is paywall. This is free. Most of the stuff on my YouTube is free, but I have recently started to do like paid content, like guitar instructional stuff, audio, free tracks and stuff like that. But do you kind of feel like, do you feel like once you start doing that, it like dilutes some of the purity maybe of of the work, or is it just purely an ethics issue for you? And my other question is there stuff, what content do you think is it okay to sell? Like, you know what I mean? Because you're saying these kind of videos, you're like, this should not be sold, right? But like, what kind of stuff? I mean, do you have a just media in general? You know, like, I don't know what, like,
I don't know. It's like, I look at the philosophy of YouTube. What made it so successful is that it was a form of media you can watch in the video format that didn't follow the rules of television. I think is like a huge success story with it. And when you start putting in like these paywalls, it feels no different than a streaming service now, in my view. Or I don't know, the internet feels like you're allowed now to express and exchange information in a very accessible way. It's always been its selling point. And I don't know, just having this paywall, it kind of destroys what the internet was kind of made for, in my viewpoint. I'm not saying that is now like factually right, but that's how I've always looked at it. And as for like certain content that should be paid for, I don't know if I have like the answer for that, because there's maybe some form of way of making videos or an idea that would seem almost just in a sense, but I don't really have an answer of like what would be okay.
Yeah. I didn't mean to put you too much on the spot. I'm certainly not like personally, offended by the idea that you hate the paywall thing, but I am kind of interested because I was like, oh shit, I didn't totally expect Wyatt to have that point of view specifically. I was like, oh, maybe he has a Patreon. I mean, I think a lot of that shit though, like Patreon, I feel like the main point of it is that it's just charity. I mean, people do paywalled content, but a lot of the time they just unlock it later. So people pay to have an early thing. I mean, it's almost, I think a Patreon is being like, just like donating, like just passing the hat, you know what I mean? Like, some people, like there are people that subscribe to my Patreon and pay more than the thing even requests, and they don't even download they don't even check out any of the content, the paywall you know what I mean? It's just I
get you're saying. It's like supporting the person that you enjoy, and like everyone deserves some sort of support, like whether it be an artist or, I don't know, a mailman, wink wink, but I don't know.
You're not at the office. You're actually making the rounds at the post office.
No, I'm in the mail truck, delivering the mail, and I don't know. Like, this is like so much more of like this biased take that I want to say, but I don't expect people to just, I don't know, change their views on my stance. But I don't know, when people ask me, how can I support you, why? Because I remember there was one guy who was like, if you made a Patreon, I would pay you $15 a month. And I was like, no, please don't do that. Just buy the albums that I talk about if that's like really what you want to do. Because I feel like the fact that people give me their time, whether it be a 30-minute video or a joke video that I made for 10 seconds, that is my payment. And then it gets transferred in the sense of like, I don't know, the ad revenue, like I talked about. So I feel like with ad revenue, it's kind of deserved by what you can attract, where Patreon's just so much more upfront. It's kind of like how I look at it. If I were to help an old lady cross the street and I do that, and she's like, I feel like you deserve this $1 for doing that for me. It's like I did something for it, where it's like with Patreon now, it's like, I'll help you cross the street if you pay me $5 up front. And that's like what I just don't like it.
Right. Well, but I sort of see it as the paying the $5 is helping the old lady. Like, I'm the old lady, and like they don't have to.
I know. It's still like that voluntary thing. It's still that voluntary thing, which I know is like, no matter how much I complain about it, no matter how much I cry about it on the internet, there's always like that smoking gun argument against what I'm saying, and I get that, and I know my arguments aren't perfect or something like that, but it's real.
It's real.
Yeah, it's just so much more of like my personal ethics of how I look at the internet, which I'm just against it in a sense. And I don't know. I don't expect people to like willingly be like, yes, why that's everything. And I know it's not going to change anything, but I've always just kind of like felt that with Patreon from the start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mean, whether or not even if you're not trying to convince people, I mean, clearly it's like a big, that rejection of that is like central to how you envision what you're doing at the very least.
Mhm.
And that, you know, it sounds like that's not just an ethical thing, but it's like a vibe. It sounds like a vibe thing too, you know, like, I mean,
Yeah.
cause you're, yeah, there is a thing like the sort of aesthetic or attitude or, you know, or sort of presentation of your channel. Like it's definitely not like try hard. It has a very like not overdoing the like.
Yeah, some people have noticed that like I have this apparently old school YouTuber take, and it's because like, look, my camera right here that I have on this plastic tripod is just this. I just use a camcorder. The mic's in this. That's why you're going to hear echo and a little bit of reverb on my voice when I start talking in a higher pitch. And I thought, like, yeah, I have the money to get a better camera. I have the money to get lights. I have the money to do that. But it's like, I don't know, it kind of destroys the charm of YouTube. Because again, how I look at the philosophy of YouTube's success was you're able to present video content, but you don't need to follow the cliches and norms of TV. So you get like the everyday man to finally have something like this. And having this super like nice camera that's pristine, like 1080p, a microphone that won't, you know, ever jump the volume at any point. It's very even. You're kind of falling into the norms now of television is how I look at it.
That's what I'm doing, man. I'm going to be a professional broadcaster.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Wyatt? How do you like that? I'm dragging you into the professional realm. No, I'm not making money. I'm not making any money off this video at all. But yeah, no, I mean, your vibe is very like, I mean, that old school YouTube, this is very much like public access TV. I mean, that was like growing up in New York, it was like New York public access, Manhattan Neighborhood Network was like a big thing for finding out about metal and like local hardcore, New York hardcore. I mean, some of these, yeah, like the super lo-fi, like VHS of some guy like just talking to the camera. It's a deep vibe for sure, man. I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't have to take into account, well, but you're not out there like doing analytics of like how to get more views and stuff, right? I mean, you don't have to do any of that shit.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I'm amazed that the channel has the sub count that it has. I know, again, YouTube standards, what, 30 something thousand is nothing. That is nothing. But considering the fact that it's just like a hobby for me that I've just been consistent with and with the setup, and I feel like now I've kind of become like this selective dickhead in a sense. I feel like I have self-awareness. I kind of give off like this selective dickhead attitude sometimes. I'm amazed that it's still growing, and I don't know. I just don't want to do the whole like album review, album good thing. I just think that's just so overdone. I think it's not really offering anything new other than just a name for like 10 minutes. And I don't know. It's like I want to keep testing the waters of this channel to some extent, but like with topics. I know like the whole format of what I do is nothing. I'm just sitting there talking. That's nothing new. But like the way you can discuss it, I think can always be challenged.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You're not sweating growing your audience, but you are sweating growing what you're doing, man. I mean, just like the vibe. Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised that you have a lot of followers, man, because it seems like you're the only one doing stuff this consistently serious about this level of obscure music, which I mean, to you, it's not that obscure because you're like living it and shit. But I mean, as far as like, even within metal, I mean, there's tons of like, you know, I don't know, like punk, and this is not actually, not to even denigrate these people, but I don't know, like Finn McKenty or like this kind of like punk rock academy, like, you know, even that shit, it doesn't go that deep into the punk that it's describing. It doesn't go esoteric within the punk it's describing. It doesn't go esoteric within the hardcore, you know, and it's like metal is so about all the subgenres and the bottom of the iceberg. I mean, is there anyone else, not in a competitive way, but in a shout out way, because you like to be generous and give people shout outs? I mean, like, yeah, like who else is doing, well, you said Wendigoon, right? Is that
yeah, Wendigoon does mostly stories and like events, so to say, that are disturbing. And in my personal view, it's that attitude that he has that I'm like, I want to try to apply that with music. Because there are people that say, oh, you're like the metal Wendigoon. And I'm like, yes, that is like the ultimate compliment for me to be compared to him, because he talks about stuff that it's like, I don't know, you might know a little bit of. And when he dives into it, you're like, holy shit, I didn't know it goes that deep. And you can do that with music. And I don't know, just it's hard to come by, I feel like. But one guy that I am subscribed to that now I need to look him up, because what he does is album reviews, but it's like in a joking way, like the worst album ever. Let me try to look him up, because he did a review of The Residents, Meet the Residents.
Nice.
And I need to look up his review. It's called Cactus Malpractice. Yeah, sick. This dude, I love the fact that he talks about these albums that you would think are terrible because they're super experimental. Like, for example, The Residents. He did one for Nurse with Wound. On who was John Lennon's wife again?
Yoko Ono.
Yeah, he did one of her recently. And what's so interesting is he does like these reviews that you would think is just like, I think album good, bad, but like he really dives into like what made this album, the personality of these artists, what led up to what was like the, I don't know, like musical climate of the time. Yeah. And you get like this giant story while still being interested with the album. Because I feel like every album has a story to tell. And he showcases that, even though it says like worst album ever, it's done in the sense because like it's so against the norms of what we conceive to be music. And he does this like every month. And I would say like he's someone that does this very well. Then who else? He's like the first one that comes to mind right now. But
Cactus Malpractice.
Yeah, he does it very well.
Besides Sean Lumpkin is saying Brain Smasher is another good obscure metal YouTuber. Do you know this one?
That dude does not like me. I know for a fact he doesn't, because
YouTuber beef, man. Can we do it? Can you fire shots, or is that
I did once because I think he's the only one who's ever made a response video to me about, and I'll say this positively with him, about the Decibel Omega video I did. He's the only one that did that. And it's because of him that, yeah, I've kind of changed my views about like the whole separate the art from the artist thing. However, I guess he doesn't like accept the fact that, I don't know, because I don't know how to state this other than he made a video once stating that, guys, the only reason I do YouTube anymore is to balance out the shit that Wyattxhim does. So I balance it. Like, he says this, and I'm like, it's out of nowhere. And I'm like thinking, why would he say this? Is he still upset about that video that happened 4 years ago? So I just said, okay, well, I'm going to talk about Halloween music. And what I like about Halloween music is when it's terrifying, just like your diet plan, is what I said. And nice. He deletes the video, and I'm like, do you just want to talk shit about me and then like not get any repercussions for it?
Yeah.
Because like, I don't hate this man because I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about these people other than what they present online. Yeah. So even though I talk negatively about metal YouTubers and I bitch about them a lot, which I'm aware that I do I hate these people? No, because I don't know anything about them.
Well,
personally.
Haters are fans. I mean, that's the thing, it's rent free. It's rent free in this guy's head. You're living rent free in this guy's head. That's how that is.
I mean, I don't wish him any bad, and I don't want him to like be upset, but it's like, I don't get what was the point of that. All right. But on the professional side of things, yes, if you were looking for just explicitly esoteric, not talked about death metal, black metal, stuff like that, he does that exclusively. So yes, you will find stuff if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Well, on the personal aspect, no, I don't know really anything more about him. And okay. if he dislikes me, so be it. I don't, mainly because I don't know him really that much.
Yeah, but this is just good for me. All of this is answering my questions. I mean, even if whether he sucks or rules or there's beef, that's at least it's now I know there's someone doing.
Yeah, he does that.
The type of material, at least the area of aesthetics, that you're doing, Yeah, I mean, I don't even know, music reviewing. I think probably one of the things that people enjoy about your channel is that it's not all reviews. it's a, like you said, it's a variety, the iceberg charts, whatever. Because it's like music reviews are like, I feel like album reviews nowadays are like, they're not totally gone. I mean, it's like people still care about them, but like probably nowhere near the way they did 10, 15, 20 years ago, you know, but like at the same time, it's not totally dead. You know, like if you had a channel that's like all just album reviews, I feel like that would like not do nearly as well, you know. But.
No, I think album reviews will always be a thing because people will always want to talk about the music that they enjoy. Movie reviews, that's never going to change. I mean, before YouTube, there was obviously album reviewers for zines, and when the internet first started, so they're never going to stop. And it's not that I want them to. It's just from my personal biased take, it's just there's so much of it that it's just album good, album bad, album okay is like what I get from it. And I think there are other ways to discuss music, and I think with every album having a story, you go down these rabbit holes and it adds to the appeal of albums. So like, all right, with the iceberg chart, when I put Emit at the bottom, Emit only had like a few hundred views, and we're going off of like YouTube, like statistics. It only had a few hundred views. And if I did an album review of Emit and said album good, album bad, or I think it's the most, like it's the harshest thing on planet Earth, people will check it out, but it's like, what am I doing anything differently other than just doing a review? When I put it at the bottom of the iceberg chart and I said, this is like the dead end of the iceberg chart if you're looking for black metal, it blew up to the point that it has like 300,000 views.
Yeah. Because
so I think there's just other ways of discussing music, in my view.
Yeah. Absolutely. I guess actually, maybe I sort of am misjudging this thing of when I said album reviews are dead. I mean, I'm thinking about, I don't know if they have the same influence on sales that they used to, but maybe they do, you know, or maybe I'm just, maybe
you need is a big following because they can, like the Needle Drops. When he reviewed Daughters, You Won't Get What You Want,
that blew that up. Yeah,
that blew it up significantly. Like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe it's really that what I'm thinking of is like what you could call legacy media or whatever, you know, Pitchfork or in the metal world, I don't know, Kerrang or whatever these still exist. Or like these metal, like, you know, outlets, like old school professional outlets. I mean, that the influence of that's got to have waned, right? I mean, I'm not wrong about that. Right?
Yeah, no, it has. I know for a fact if a band is mentioned on there, it will get heads turning as like what's upcoming and new, especially when they're like, for example, I think Power Trip is a great example of like getting on like these bigger tabloids because of their music. Because I always thought, and a lot of people thought with like a band like Power Trip, thrash metal cannot appeal to a younger audience. And Power Trip, I really feel like proved everyone wrong. Even though sadly their vocalist passed away 2 years ago, what they were able to accomplish by appealing to a younger crowd, I do feel like it's because of like some of these bigger outlets advertising them as such.
Okay. Yeah. I may be projecting my own experience onto things because I kind of like, with me, like any albums that I've put out with my various projects that have like gotten higher like things where it's like, oh, it's in Spin, oh, it's in Decibel, like those, that press in my, but maybe it's just the level I'm at, you know, maybe just it's different when you're at different like profiles. I'm like, this isn't actually helping me sell records. And then I'm like, my experience now music business wise is that my own YouTube channel is like selling more records than fucking Revolver or whatever. Like more people are reading, like, are watching me just unsolicited talk about myself than some guy asking 5 questions for Charlie Looker and they didn't even bother to, you know.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is with this kind of goes back to like how with uploading my videos anyway, it's like you give things space. With something like Kerrang or Revolver, it's like you have this magazine, sure, but it's like so much shit, and you're only looking at like what's presented on the cover. That so much of it's just going to get glossed over now. Right. And I don't know, just putting more of like this event feeling on one thing, even if it's done by yourself, helps out more than anything else, I feel like. Yeah. So I don't know. It's like with your experiences anyway, all I can think of is it was glossed over by the things they were advertising way more, especially on the cover.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And I mean, it's like, it just doesn't, it's like maybe you see the band's name in the thing and that lodges in your brain. You're like, oh, that band is kind of legit, or other people must like them because they're in this thing, but it doesn't necessarily drive one to actually check it out themselves. Whereas like if you stumble on something and it's like some guy like just on YouTube, like going off, like I don't know. It's like it's like maybe harder to find, but it's like when people see it, they like care more or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, yeah, this is what's weird. It's like the music industry, it's like not dead. It's not dying. It's just weird. It's all over the place. People still buy fucking records. People buy CDs, you know? Like that's not even people buy tapes, man. I mean, especially in metal, people.
You know what? You know what's even crazy too? People are still buying 8-tracks because some bands see the appeal to it. Yeah, the Cult of Fire, a black metal band that's like from I think the Czech Republic, and they're really successful for a band. They sold an 8-track. I was like, why? But they did.
That's weird. That seems like a very indie rock move or something. Yeah, you know, like kitschy retro shit. But yeah, they know what they're doing. Yeah. I've heard of Cult of Fire, but I haven't actually fucked around with it. They're pretty like straight up black metal, right? They're not
I've seen them live. I'll tell you this. They are one of the only few bands that deserve the title of epic black metal. One of the very few that deserve that title.
All right. Yeah. Regarded in the comments says, I still fuck with blogs. What in 2023 is a music blog? Because I remember 2010, at least on the indie whatever type tip, there was all those blogs. That's Extra Life. You know, my band got, you know, a ton of shine off of those. But what are the blogs now? Like,
I have no idea because I think I skipped over that when I was getting into this. All I can think of is people have an attachment to a blog from years ago, and maybe some ended and new ones come through, and you like that format. And I don't think that's wrong at all, because again, you're still discussing music, which is the main thing. So I guess blogs offer some sort of like personal connection with the format is the only thing I can think of. But I don't know any blogs. I glossed right over that from the start, so I can't really say anything about it.
Yeah, I can't really. Yeah, I don't know anything at the moment. I'm definitely late aughts and early tens in New York. There was like a hole in the New York kind of whatever you want to call that indie, you know, hipster or whatever scene. There was definitely like all these blogs that died early, but whatever what is it? Hipster Runoff, fucking Gorilla versus Bear. What was it? Gorilla versus Shark. Yeah, there were tons of these that were influential, but then died. So, oh yeah, okay. He's talking about Invisible Oranges and Toilet of Hell. Are those?
Those are like. I didn't think they were blogs. I thought they were like outlets, because I go to them when I'm looking up bands like information. They do interviews, and I think this is where they shine, because now you get to flesh out the artist by doing obviously interviews, which I know is like basic information. But yeah, Invisible Oranges does a good job with it. Vice, I've come across a few Vice interviews that are really interesting. I know those are two that come to mind, because I think every video I've done bringing up interviews, Invisible Oranges tends to do them, which is interesting.
Yeah. No, Invisible Oranges is a great site. Those are some of my friends there. I've done some interviews for them and stuff. Yeah. It's and same with Toilet of Hell. They've got that podcast. I was on that podcast like this a while ago now, but Brooklyn Vegan, classic. But yeah, man. Yeah. Well, so yeah, I'm sure. I bet your channel is. I mean, it's not that this is your intention. Maybe it is. I mean, it's helping people sell records. I'm sure these bands are selling some records based on your recommendation. Definitely. Yeah, I would imagine. So they don't need blogs. They just need,
they just need discussions. And I feel like in any sense of a discussion, whether it be just keeping up with a guy who does only Facebook posts about music is like, that's the main important thing. And it's just, I think, again, I know I'm repeating myself so much, but there's all different ways to discuss an album, and just there's more to it than just album reviews. With like doing with I mean, he's found success with it, but just copying the format of the Needle Drops, there's so much more to it than just that. I feel like.
Yeah. I don't think video essays are cringe at all.
I like them. I think it's just the fact that people look at it like you're doing a video essay about a video game that came out 10 years ago for 5 hours. It's like, yeah, because it appeals to people.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah. I've heard a couple of my friends are just like, oh, like you've got this channel. Are you doing tell me you're not doing video essays. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm doing. And they fucking, they rip, dude. Come on. But, yeah, man. Well, cool. Let's say we were talking about an hour and a half. Let's I think we covered great ground, man. We got to everything I was thinking of, man. I mean, do you have anything I don't know, you have anything you want to get in here, like topics, like shit that really stuff you didn't that I didn't get to that you were like kind of hoping I'd get to?
No, not the top of my head. 'Cause I mean, we've been consistently talking for like nearly 100 minutes at this point, and I'm surprised at how smooth everything went without any like bumps or bruises. Yeah, I mean, sure, the political stuff probably caused some bumps or bruises in some sense.
You know why? You're dealing with a professional broadcaster.
That's why. Should have figured.
Yeah, but see, you're showing you can have the professional broadcast level without fucking begging people for money. So that's the other side. That's the other side. I appreciated that perspective. This is good to hear on here.
No, it's like, I guess my thing is, I don't know. I want it to be like disagreeing with someone isn't this like hostile thing. I want it to be that. I know I can be opinionated because anyone else in this world can, but I like having my hot takes, like especially with the latest video of me talking about the things I dislike in metal. I mean, these were petty fucking things. Like, I don't like the fact that we use the word female. I don't like the fact I don't like the fact that we use the word non-metal. Like petty stuff that it's like, if you did, it wouldn't end the world. And I know some people hated the fact that I got that deep, but I don't know. I don't want to feel discomfort in expressing things that I dislike and feeling like, oh God, I'm on the chopping block because someone might disagree with me. Like, with Brain Smasher, again, I don't want to hate this guy, but like he had every right to do a response video to me. He has every right to disagree with me, and I don't want it to be this hostile thing where it's like now he's like shit talking me.
Yeah.
Is what I want, and it's like I want my viewers to disagree with me. Yeah. I want them to challenge me because I feel like that's what's molded me with some different perspectives now. And if I do the same to them, cool. That's not like let me rephrase that. If I do that to them, cool, because I challenge them, which is the main point. But I'm not trying to control them by saying like you have to agree with me or it's nothing.
No, man. I mean, it's look, if you're not ruffling any feathers at all, especially if you're like you're a public figure of some kind. If you do all this stuff and no one's mad at you at all, then you're just a people pleaser, man. I mean, there's no.
I think you're just echo chambering, and I don't want to be that.
Yeah, no, it's super. Yeah. I mean, something you do that I can't think of a specific example off the top of my head, but I respect how a few of these things you were like. You didn't like apologize for anything, but you like reconsidered some stuff. You were like, you know what? I said this in the other video and I kind of think a little differently now. You're just like, I changed my mind a little bit. I'm like, why don't people do that more? I like never hear people online just be like, oh yeah, I changed my mind. So I respected hearing you do that in a few cases, just being like, having the like, not having this weird pride.
I think
sticking by what you said, forever. And shit.
I think what that is getting on a personal level is, with like, my wife, well, she will be in a little bit, but like my wife, Clara, or even my dad, especially, everyone else does. We like to talk about politics, whether it be behind closed doors on the internet, whatever. And I noticed year by year when I kept talking to him about different things, and I'm not going to say what he thinks, but like, I noticed like he would change a little bit. And I realized like that is totally healthy to do that, because I think it's human nature to look at things differently. And I don't know, it's like I almost get like a thrill out of challenging my own views again. Like I know repeating things we've talked about like an hour ago, but I don't think it's wrong to say I don't know about certain things. I don't think it's wrong to say, I was a bit arrogant in years past, and now I think, with this viewpoint that now I have, it's not wrong to think differently. And I don't know, this idea that the world's so black and white. I don't really like that viewpoint. If it's just like I'm going to say one thing and it's written in stone, and I'm making my own rules now that I can't change it. I just don't like that.
You know, whether it's aesthetics or politics, social, any takes, it's like, I think with a lot of people, there's like almost like there's almost a macho element of being like, this is what I believe. And not only am I not changing my mind, but I've always thought this. Like pretending that you always knew this thing about COVID, that it's like, no, you didn't, you know what I mean? Like you completely change your mind, and that's fine. Just admit that you did, you know. And there's,
I mean, like, even with music, I can tell you for damn straight, like a lot of that back there 10 years ago, I've been like, nope, I ain't buying a hip hop album. I ain't buying a noise album. It's only metal. And then you realize, like, I don't know, so many metal bands I love, like Summoning, their influence comes from something in a totally different world. They took influence from Dead Can Dance and made that into black metal.
Is so sick. What like there's so, it's like so easy to make fun of them, you know, in a way. Like there's just this, like,
they're a black metal band that's not trying to appeal to black metal, which is like so interesting about them.
Summoning is dope, man. Summoning is really, really dope. But yeah, man, word. All right. Well, look, everyone who, thanks everyone for being in the chat and listening and watching and all that. And, you know, a bunch of you are Wyattxhim fans, so I don't have to hype up Wyattxhim. But if you're listening and watching and you've not checked out his channel, man, it is a absolute treasure trove of extreme music in general, particularly metal. So, yeah, man, there it is. Thank you so much. I'd say, is there anything to plug? But you don't plug stuff. It's just more and more.
Yeah, I do. At the end, I always say drink plenty of water to stay hydrated and have a great day is what I usually say.
There you go. Everyone, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, and have a good day. Thanks for being here. All right.